Good afternoon. We're going to start, if everyone's all set. My name is Trish Cotter, and I'm the Associate Managing Director of the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship. The Office of External Relations and I would like to welcome you. I know you probably know who OER is. I'm assuming you know who OER. But the Trust Center, just so that you have an idea, the Trust Center hosts students from across campus. We get about 1,000 students a day through the door, 350 on the weekend. And just to give you an idea, our ramen, coffee, and oatmeal budget is about $4,000 a month. So, and what surprised me when I came here, this is my third year here, what surprised me was the student population. I knew they were really smart people at MIT, but what I didn't understand was that they were 50% of the population that we see are curious entrepreneurs. Those are students who have come across MIT, all the schools. They're just interested in entrepreneurship. And what a great place that the Trust Center provides a home is what we call it for them. So those 50%, another 10, 12% are the ready to go. So that's kind of the misnomer. Not everybody's Mark Zuckerberg, okay? So they have to either learn that they like entrepreneurship, and we have to give them that opportunity. The other percentages of people, the personas that we have come through the Trust Center, are the ready-to-go -1. And the dean just alluded to that. Students who are interested in working at startups, but they don't necessarily want to be the founders. And they want it a little bit de-risked. So that's the third persona. The fourth persona that we have is people who are across the globe that have small and medium enterprises or want to work in the government and create an ecosystem. And they want to know how to do that. And then the last persona, which the dean also mentioned, is corporate entrepreneurship. Students are looking for an alternative, particularly in Sloan, to the big consulting firms. They want to bring some entrepreneurship, but they have a debt profile, and others have a risk profile, and they want to do entrepreneurship. So those are our personas in the center. So it's really important that we provide programming for those students. So the students, we provide support, we provide, hopefully, inspiration, and we provide episodic coaching. And some of the people and the teams that you're going to see today have gone through several of the programs that we have. And the most current one, which starts Monday, is Delta V. Mark your calendars for September 9th. We have 21 teams that have come through, 20 from MIT and 1 from ETAM in Mexico, 9 healthcare teams, we have marketplace teams, we have software and technology. So if you went, how many of you have been to a demo day? Okay, it's really a lot of fun. This year is going to be outstanding, so mark your calendars. So today, one of the things that we have are the 21 teams over here. They will be getting up and they will be doing a pitch for 60 seconds. And we'd like you, if you'd like to learn more, there'll be a showcase afterwards and you can catch up with them. If you also want an invitation to demo day and you're not on our list, you can get on our website, or I left business cards up at the top. If you want to send me a note, but please put in the subject heading demo day invitation, or it might not make it to me. And then send me a mail and I'll make sure you get on the list. Okay? So today, these 21 teams are looking for your support. They're looking for networking. This is a great opportunity to do this. So afterwards, again, we'll let the teams go out, the people go out, and then you will follow them. So today's speaker, we are very lucky to have Hisham Anwar, who is a member of the 2012 EMBA class. And one thing I would like to say is express my complete thanks to the MIT community. We can't do entrepreneurship education without the ecosystem. And when I put 21 teams up, we put mock boards together for the teams. So anywhere between 5, 7+ mentors. So I need 10 people pretty much per team. And I reach out for a month. And I would say if I need 200 people, I probably have to reach out to 230. And people will say yes. And for that, thank you very much. That's nice support for our students. So Hisham is a 2012 graduate from the EMBA class. He has 16 years of experience in senior management roles. He directed technology and strategy at Moody's, Royal Dutch, Zynga Games, to name a few. He's also an active contributor to the open source, artificial intelligence, and entrepreneurship community in Silicon Valley. He advises startups and has been a yearly judge, and again, giving back to the MIT 100K and the Berkeley Ideas Competition. He co-founded a company called BrightBytes in 2012. He's currently the CTO. BrightBytes is a company that measures the impact of technology in student learning. He is a perfect speaker for our innovation showcase. Please join me in a warm welcome for Hisham Anwar.
Hello, everyone. Just a couple of things to start off with. I speak very fast, so if anything that you miss, find me afterwards, and we'll talk about the things that you might not have comprehended. The other thing is there are some ideas that I'm going to be sharing today. If any of the ideas resonate with you, anything that you feel is top of mind, let's have that conversation as well. I spend mostly all of my time thinking about these things. That being said, I'm going to dive right in. So a little bit about me. I have a family with 2 kids. This is my wife up there, Becky, and my 2 kids who are 7 and 11 now, Isaac and Seth. Isaac actually just graduated out of elementary, which I didn't even know was a thing. Till my wife told me I wasn't able to fly in the morning to Boston and had to catch a red eye. The Warriors are going to Game 5. I wish it was all over yesterday, but it didn't happen. So go Warriors. I live in San Francisco. That's one of the reasons I put them up there. I'm the co-founder and CTO of BrightBytes, and I'm going to be speaking a little bit more about the company, how it was founded, where it's headed, where it's been, things of that nature. I'm also part of the EMBA 2012, which I think has already been mentioned. Prior to that, I was head of global infrastructure for Zynga Games. I've worked at Moody's. I've worked at Mamapedia, which was a location-based parenting network. I worked for a financial processor, Dorado, and I've also worked for the Dutch government. So I've been around the block, working for big companies, working for startups, been in the failure end of things, been in successful end of things. So I've really seen the entire spectrum. As far as personal interests are concerned, I'm an angel investor. I do invest in about 3 to 5 companies on an annual basis. So if anybody's interested in having that conversation, come find me. Avid traveler. I don't get much time for it. The last 5 years of my life have been consumed by this company, BrightBytes. I have really had zero travel and zero leisurely time in that process. Food, I highlighted that just to a couple of pointers to this deck. Anything you see in orange are the words and the ideas that really pop up in my mind as important ones. So they're the glue. AI machine learning, this is something that I've been steeped in over the last year and a half. Really been teaching myself about this as a CTO of the company, as there are tons of opportunities in the work that I do in education and the stuff that's happening in the AI machine learning world. Entrepreneurship, I am an entrepreneur. Can we do a quick show of hands? Any more entrepreneurs in the crowd here? All right. Any faculty? No, great. All right, 1 person. So I can get in trouble here and probably stay out of trouble in a few areas. The reason I ask you that is because one of the things I wanted to disclose before we dive in and talk a little bit about BrightBytes is that the ideas I'm going to share today are ideas that I've seen success with and we've seen success with. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to apply to everyone. I want you to keep that in mind because I talk to a lot of people as I'm trying to learn about topics and about ideas. And it became very clear to me after doing that for years that not everything that you hear and everything you say is exactly the way you hear it. You have to find ways of assimilating it, ways of making it fit into your own context. So a little bit about BrightBytes. The BrightBytes is an organization. There's a pointer here. So there's me and Rob Mancabelli. We were classmates in the EMBA 2012. This was an idea that the 2 of us thought through, an idea that we went full time into after graduation. So this idea was very much born within the context of this university. The organization that I work for is a data integration analysis platform built to improve the way students learn. It's a very mission-driven organization, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Our mission's down there, improve the way the world learns. And the mission is important to us, and I'm going to be double-clicking on this a little bit more. I never really understood what that meant, like having a vision. Like, what does that even mean? Like, it sounded good. It was interesting to have on your website. It has really become a defining cornerstone of how we operate as a business and how we've seen success in the market. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. The market that we sell to, if anybody understands government sales, is really municipal sales is what we're really into. K-12 education is what we're focused on. Private, public, charter, Catholic organizations and things of that nature. And our approach is research-based analytics. The way that we differentiate ourselves from the Tableaus of the world and the IBMs of the world is that we start all our work with assimilating and collecting all the research that already exists within K-12 around practices in teaching and learning that actually work. And the final piece of it is a lot of our IP is built around when you do a strength and gap analysis in a particular environment, how can you now partner with the gap, with the organizations to address the gaps? So we spend a lot of time thinking about targeting evidence-based practices, even figuring out what an evidence-based practice might be. We've had a ton of success. I'm going to share some stats about the business itself. But we started in 2012. We added about 1,000 schools that we started working on early on. And through the course of 2013-15, you can see we've had some pretty interesting growth from a label perspective. And all of this translates down to revenues as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The three things that you can probably take away from this is that we started small. We started with what in the development world might be referred to as an MVP. It was a monolithic application. It did one thing. It did it really well. We went through 3 to 4 versions of this till we found product market fit. We were lucky to find that in the first 12 months. And since then, we realized that what we had built as one application had legs and applications in other parts of education, and we started building other apps. All of a sudden, we're sitting here in 2015, and we've got a bunch of apps. It's getting harder and harder to distribute them, harder to manage them, maintain them, get success based on them. So we started this initiative early 2014 to start transforming our organization into a platform company. Like, how do we build a platform that essentially can build these sorts of data analytics modules, if I may? And that's a journey that we are starting to get to the end of. In fact, next week is when we are releasing our new platform at ISTE, which is one of the larger conferences in K-12 education around technology. A couple of other things. We've raised a bunch of capital in the process. The first couple of years of capital was all based on double bottom line investors. For those of you who don't understand what that means, it's really a person who's invested in making a lot of cash, but is also interested in the impact that cash is having. That was really interesting for us because it really allowed us to stay true to this mission. We weren't sitting in a lot of board meetings talking about commercial value, about how we're going to make the most money in this market. We were really thinking about where can we have the most impact. And if we can identify those areas and we can deliver value, everything else will come with. And that's really how it's sort of panned out. Okay, that being said, let's move to a little. I put a few numbers up here. There's some information about our business that's confidential, but if all the mathematicians in here can start doing some back of the napkin math to figure out what the underlying economics of the business might be. We have a very strong renewal rate, which is the proudest number that I am over here. It was one of the biggest challenges we had as a business. You can build widgets day in and day out, but if people don't use them and derive value from them, they don't renew them. Over 5 years, we've renewed 96% of our customers. We are in 1 in 5 schools in the US and 39,000 schools globally, all 5 continents. We've been recognized for 20 awards in design and analytics. We are a very design-centric org, and I'm going to be sharing that finding and some of the learnings I've had around that realm in a little bit as well. We have 156 employees. We've grown a minimum of 100% year over year over the last 5 years, and we've raised about $54 million in capital. So that's the company itself. There's one person whose picture kind of been missing here, but we'll cover her in a second. The MIT connection is only appropriate that I'm standing here at MIT to maybe sort of draw some of the lines that need to be drawn. Founded at MIT, this was an idea that I've talked through for 24 months before it became something that was a business. It took many different forms, but eventually ended up becoming BrightBytes the way we see it. A framework for thinking through many aspects of business. Initially when I was typing this slide out at 3 in the morning last night, I had put all aspects of business, and I kind of changed that because there are a few opportunities and certain things that I had to teach myself. There were gaps in my understanding of how capital markets functioned, how venture capital in particular functioned, how boards are managed, how boards should be assembled, and so on and so forth. So there were certain things in my toolkit that were missing that I was able to learn on my own. But a ton of what we did was really available through the things that I learned out here in Sloan. How to read a financial report, how to think about marketing, the differentiating between positioning and targeting. While all these things in textbooks sounded logically right, putting them to work really made them clear and concise. The network itself, the first 3 investors into the BrightBytes equation were all MIT alums. Andy Patrick, I refer to him as the true angel. If you think about the context of an angel in a business, he really was it. He not only wrote the first big check into the BrightBytes equation, but also bailed us out a couple of times when we were running out of cash and things were not looking as positive as they are today. Amjad's a dear friend of mine, an early investor, and then Shante, who's a partner at Reach Capital. Shante had just joined the firm, and this was the very first check that she wrote as an investor. She's done 37 investments since. So really, really refreshing to see somebody who's willing to talk to us only because we had the MIT badge on, which is refreshing. Expansive open network. I say that, truthfully. I'm in Hong Kong. I call up somebody from Infinite Campus, and 3 hours later, I'm sitting and having coffee with that person, right? And that person gives us our largest contract in Hong Kong 3 months later. So really an open network, people don't have to know you, just being able to reach out and being able to leverage that has been a really refreshing aspect as well. So some learnings, every day I wake up and I go into work and I feel like I'm a problem solver. Like if I take for granted the things that are working, but pay special attention to things that are not. And I want to talk a little bit about the 4 or 5 learnings that I've had as I assimilate everything that's happened over the last 5 years. Some of it might be useful, some of it might be redundant. Do with it as you please. If you want to chat about any of these, please come find me and I'll be more than happy to dive in. Disclosure, I made this earlier. Don't take this as a recipe. There might be things you see today and you realize, oh my God, what is this guy talking about? It's all fine. This is in context of BrightBytes, what I've seen success with, what we've seen success with. It's not a recipe to be applied across the board for every business to be successful. All right, mission and purpose. That's the BrightBytes team in the background. It's one of our offsites. Having a shared mission across employees, investors, and board. This was something that was a learning early on. As I said, the first idea of speaking through a vision was not very cohesive in my mind as to why would you have a mission that really didn't do anything. It was a mission because it felt good. What I really started realizing is that the mission can really drive every decision you make. Our early investors, the conversation we were having behind closed doors in board meetings wasn't about the $15 million you can make by creating a new product, but it was really about what are the areas of opportunity within education, where are the places where data can really be leveraged and improved as a higher tide for all boats. And having that shared vision is not enough to have it between myself and Rob. It was important for us to share that with our employees, which is hard to do. And even more so with our board. Like these are folks who have limited partnerships and have responsibilities to return some return on their capital. Sometimes it's hard for them to start thinking about the idea that we shouldn't touch certain commercially viable things because the mission is not going to be satisfied doing those things. So we spend a lot of time thinking about that. Using mission as a filter, whenever we decide to build a new product, try to expand our platform as it sits today, the essential questions that we're asking ourselves as a product team is, how is it going to improve the way the world learns? How are kids going to have better opportunities in career and life? And some of the essential things that come to mind when you think about public education. What has happened automatically, when you stay focused on that, you stay focused on the value. If you stay focused on the value, people come back, and that's really the loyalty and the retention that we've been able to establish, which in a SaaS business, which is the business model that I'm in, this is one of the most sacred numbers that you can sort of hold on to because you go in with the sense of compounding, and it's a very interesting business if you can retain your customers, and not so interesting if you keep churning. Founding team. That's Rob and I. Rob wanted to be here today. He had another talk that he had to give, so he wasn't able to join us. But I wanted to reflect on this one thing that him and I talked about all the time, which is this idea that he has close to 0 overlapping skills. He was an educator, understood the market deeply, and had been the buyer within the context of who we were going to sell our first product to. And I'd been a technologist. I had no idea what education was. I was a consumer of the market. I was coming in from the outside in, and so on and so forth. So what this really allowed us to do as founders was really cast a wide net. We were able to cover a lot of topics around the 2 most important things that we needed to get right. One was the knowledge of the market and the target we were selling to, and knowledge of building a solution that would scale to that market. So really the 2 right pieces, the reason I put those 2 pieces up there is because maybe having diversity in 2 skills that you don't need for your business to be successful might not be as important. And I know many examples of 2 engineers who built multi-billion-dollar companies. So I wouldn't say that, just take this for what it's worth. For us, having that breadth, being able to go deep into the market, being able to go deep into the technology, but being able to do that across a shared vision and mission has really been a factor of growth. This slide in particular was conceived by Rob. I'm only putting this in here because he had always mentioned to me that if he ever got an opportunity to speak to this group, this would be his #1 message. So, in his memory. Data-driven. I wish I had access to one of those guys who had the 800 GMAT scores and in the big data analysis masters that our dean was talking about. But it was one of the hardest things to do. The hardest thing for us to do was not to realize that we needed to be data-driven, but the hardest thing to do was to identify and quantify the outcomes that really mattered to us. How do you quantify making the world learn better? Like, I don't know how you quantify that, right? And we struggled with that a lot. And the three things that we had to get right for that sort of that equation to solve for itself was this idea that you have to understand and you have to define your desired outcomes. I mean, if you want to do something in particular, if you want to solve the dropout rate, or you want to solve professional development for the teachers, you want to build capacity and leadership for principals, and so on and so forth, you kind of have to understand that, and you have to understand it very thoroughly. And if you understand it thoroughly, perhaps you can start to define it. And if you can start to define it, perhaps you can quantify it, which becomes even harder because this stuff's changing every day. Like every 3 weeks, we learn something we didn't know before. We are pivoting and changing. Sorry for the typos in there. This is very late at night. And it became even harder. Now we would define something, but 3 weeks later it would change. You know? And then the final part of it is once you've defined it and you can quantify it, how do you get good data? This is way harder than I thought, especially in an organization like ours. We're adding 30, 40 people on a quarterly basis or an annual basis. And as these organizations are growing and people are assimilating and so on and so forth, it gets even harder to get access to the high fidelity, clean data that you need in order to connect some of these dots. A good example of this is when we first started, we read every blog and every post, talked to every investor about this idea of running a software as a service business, and we ended up with this library of metrics. And we were spending 30, 40 hours a month literally just sitting down there and creating numbers that made no sense. Over the time, as we've become more disciplined as a company, as we've hired more leadership, those stats have really fallen down, or those metrics have really fallen down to 6. I believe in these 6 metrics now. I would debate anybody in this room around why these 6 metrics, and there is no 7th metrics when it comes to a SaaS business, but a conversation that we probably shouldn't debate right now, given I have 15 minutes. But if anybody wants to talk about SaaS metrics and why those 6 things, there's a very clear narrative behind it, and it's very intuitive in nature. It's basic things like you want to acquire somebody, you don't want to spend too much money doing that. When you've acquired them, you want to retain them. When you've retained them, you want to service them in a margin equation that's healthy to the business. You want to make them happy, and you want to continue to grow. Growth is your number one driver in these equations. Market, timing, focus. This is, I guess this is all about luck to some extent. I strongly believe that if we started this business 5 years ago, 5 years before when we started it, it would not have worked. One thing that's working for us in this scenario is that the temperature and the climate of accountability is on the rise. People are asking harder questions. People are, when something wrong happens, all of a sudden we live in a hyper-connected world and everybody hears about it. There was a very high-profile case in LA Unified where people are now in orange suits in prison because they misspend the dollars and so on and so forth. So you hear about these mistakes that people are making on a large scale in the educational system, and all of a sudden that stuff doesn't get swept under the carpet. It gets tweeted out, it goes on Facebook, and everybody hears about it. So now board members are asking important questions. 7 years ago, when I was in a board meeting in my kids' school, people would say, buy 100 laptops. People would be like, it's the 21st century. Of course, we should do that. And now people are like, what are you going to do with them? How are you going to implement them? How are they going to improve curriculum, instruction, assessment? And all of a sudden, all the walls come caving in. And that's really the problems that we're trying to solve. Understanding the business of the business, we work in municipal sales. Municipal sales are really, really hard. The reason that one quick example of this I'd give you, the person who makes the introduction to your deal, the person who pitches your product, and the person who sells your product are 3 different people. We never knew that. We tried to hire that one magic person, and we tried many, many times in many, many different variations, and none of that worked. So now that we know that, and we knew that through our new CEO that we hired a year and a half ago, municipal sales are starting to make sense to us. And so one of the things that's the takeaway here is understand the business of the business. Not every business buys alike. In a B2B context, you might be able to sell based on true value. And here you are selling based on relationships. The people are wondering, like, if things don't work, can I call Rob or Hisham in the middle of the night? And there are lots of consideration in the back of the mind because this market is not a market in which you produce bottom line, upside, I guess. A joke in the market is if I'm a CIO and I take my $100 million January 1st and I bury them, and then I have a buddy who is a CIO and he takes $100 million and drives outcomes up the wazoo, guess what? It's January 1st, we both get $100 million again. And nobody gets 101, nobody gets a pat on the back. It's a pretty hostile market to be in. So interesting, but hostile. People are hard. I'm hard. But the biggest takeaways from the people equation is hiring for mission and personality. you cannot hire for mission and personality if you're not willing to invest in development. So this was another finding that we didn't have. Initially, we hired a lot of people who were mission-driven, who really had resonated with our business, but were people who didn't quite fit into our culture. And once we started hiring for mission and personality and intelligence, what we started realizing is that if they didn't have the skills they needed to do jobs, we needed to also invest in their professional development. The no AH rule, this is something I brought back from Zynga. This was a poster in our HR department at Zynga Games. And the real rule here is that we all want to work with likable people. Nobody needs to be another person's face because they know more than the other person or thinks about a particular problem or an issue differently. We need to do this together. If there are 150 plus people at BrightBytes, the idea is that we have 150 brains that can solve every single problem that we have. This idea that one person believes that they have a better solution and so on and so forth is problematic. Transparency is hard. Transparency is hard, particularly if you penalize people for failure. I don't think you succeed if you don't fail, because you do the comfortable thing. If you do the comfortable thing, I think your competition eats your lunch very, very quickly. Everybody contributes to culture. We try to be forceful with culture. We try to introduce things that were interesting and intellectual to us. And what you quickly realize is what you need to do is offload that stuff to the 150 plus people to be able to do for you. And we've done that, and our culture has a common theme to it, but it evolves and changes and becomes better over time. Design is an advantage. It's a personal passion for me, for anybody who knows me. This really was one of the main growth drivers for us, and it was very fascinating to see all of this unfold. Our first hire, we are starting a data analytics company where imagine go hire a statistician or go hire a data scientist or a developer. We hired an Emmy Award-winning storyteller. And the reason we did that is we knew we were going to market with data systems that has never used data systems before. How do you humanize data? How do you allow people to mobilize it? How do you get them to feel comfortable? How do you bake the analysis into a story that's in context for them? Lots of different challenges that design can solve very effectively. So again, for our business, design has been a driver. Everything we put our name goes through a centralized design team. This is everything. If you want to do a one-page explainer in 13 hours, the only exception to that rule is this presentation, which I did on a plane, and nobody's seen yet. And it's not going to be shown to my head of design because she's going to want my left limb on a platter. So anyway, design is a true advantage. Truly believe this. I think if anybody over here truly studies this topic, this idea that a design-centric approach to having business is a really interesting, and one of the things that I think no matter what I do, if I'm building boring old batteries or I'm building a platform for analytics, I think it's going to be something that I'm going to take with me everywhere I go in my life. Looking ahead, just as a wrap up, professionally, I'm interested in market consolidation. We are at a position in our company right now where there are lots of interesting tuck-ins or whatever you want to call them, smaller companies who might have stifled in growth and such. So I'm really educating myself on what that equation looks like. From a technology perspective, we've been a statistical-heavy company. We do a lot of predictive analytics. We're trying to figure out with the 20, 30 million students worth of data that we have, can we start thinking about a different approach, like maybe a deep learning approach, and so on and so forth. So if anybody's interested in any of those topics, let's come find me, and I'd love to talk them through. From a personal perspective, integrating work with life, I'm horrible at keeping my life-work balance in check. My wife is an amazing woman who keeps me at least sane in that equation. Defining urgent. One of the things I've realized is that everything in a startup is urgent. You get a call at 3 in the morning, at 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, and when you think about those 3 calls, none of them were really urgent. So I've really spent a lot of time thinking about and defining and communicating to people what urgency really means. And that's really helped get some of those hours back and some of those stress levels of escalating things unnecessarily. Impact investing, as you've seen, our company is in a mission-based company. I think there are opportunities for other entrepreneurs to sort of take their ideas and make them something that can lift the tide and be more socially impactful and such. Super interested in that. All my angel investments in the last 24 months were all double bottom line investments, mostly in the impact space. And then the final piece of it is giving back. Like, how do you find opportunities to give back, not only the money and the monetary aspects of it, but also the skill set and the domain and so on and so forth, which again is a hard thing to do when you're in a company that's growing and your time is a commodity that you don't have much of. All right, my email address, if anybody has any, wants to reach out, wants to talk any of these topics further, I'll also be outside after the pitch sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Hisham. That was absolutely perfect. That is very close to the framework that we teach at the Trust Center, so terrific. So many of these, as I mentioned earlier, these students, these teams and the graduates have been students or in programs. So it's really a pleasure to introduce many of them. So first up there, at 60 seconds, we're gonna start clapping, okay? So I haven't met an entrepreneur that can't go over 60 without stopping, so it will be 60 seconds. So first up, Francisco Aguilar from the class of 2012, CEO of Bounce Imaging.
Every day we ask police, soldiers, firefighters, other first responders to enter hazardous, unseen spaces in the performance of their duty. Whether police officers responding to a hostage situation or search and rescue workers after a structural collapse, the inability to see around a corner or inside a space costs lives. We've developed throwable omnidirectional cameras. You can toss into a space and get an instant 360 VR view of what's going on right on your smartphone or on a VR headset. In 2015, we won the Verizon Powerful Answers $1 million prize for the best first responder technology. And we're deployed with FEMA, the FBI, the NYPD, the LAPD, the US Marshals. And every day we get to work with cool cutting edge tech to keep first responders a little bit safer. So come talk to us. Thanks.
Entrepreneur up, and you did an awesome job. So next up is Daniel Aronson, class of 1999, founders of Valutus.
Valutus is doing for sustainability work what Microsoft did for office work. I'm Daniel Aronson, and in my role as Sustainability Strategy Consulting Lead for IBM and Deloitte, I oversaw the development of sophisticated sustainability tools for companies like Nike. But most companies won't hire a consultant to build them a sophisticated sustainability tool any more than they would pay 6 or 7 figures to hire a programmer to build them an office suite. The difference is that there's no Microsoft Office equivalent for sustainability yet. That's not because there's no market. There's over $1 billion in staff spend for sustainability, growing about $100 million a year in the US, about another $1 billion in consulting. There's also not because there's no benefit. Something that took a city 2 months to do for setting carbon targets, a tool I led, let them do it in 2 hours.
Okay, next up is John Bay from the class of 1987, CEO of Algorithm Hub.
Hi, shout out to 87, let's go, baby. All right. As you know, many of you know, algorithms are the bread and butter of big data analysis. Most scientists and engineers develop algorithms in a local environment. So what is the problem? If developing an algorithm in a local environment, it's very difficult to share the algorithms or get access to high-performance computing, which means you need a cloud. Algorithm Hub makes it faster, cheaper, and easier to take your algorithms from a local environment to the cloud. One of our customers is focused on cancer research. We've taken their algorithm processing time from 20 hours to less than 10 minutes. The NSA recently signed a CRADA with us, a collaborative research and development agreement. We're using Algorithm Hub for their data scientists to look at non-classified algorithms in the AWS environment. As Robert Runter said, who's the director for NSA, Algorithm Hub eliminates many of the tedious aspects of using a public cloud. Please come talk to me. Thank you.
Next up is Oliver Sebedjo from the class of 2007.
Olivier.
Pardon me?
Olivier Severio.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry. COO of Resolute Marine.
Very good. So 1 billion people lack safe access to drinking water. But the good news is that actually a large fraction of this population live in coastal area where they have access to an incredible source of energy, ocean waves. And that's what we do at Resolute Marine Energy. We use ocean waves to drive a desalination system and provide fresh water for these people. So we have been working on this technology for the last 8 years, and we are preparing our first commercial deployment in Cape Verde within 2 years in an effort that is already partly financed by the African Development Bank. And I say partly, because I'm coming back to you now. So recently, another French guy was telling the world that it is our shared responsibility to make the planet great again. And this is your opportunity tonight to do something about it. So if you have people in your network interested in such a project or willing to invest for such a project, please do make the connection. They may thank you later for that, while I'm thanking you now. Thank you.
All right, next up is Jason Escamilla, class of 2002 CEO of Impact Labs.
Socially responsible investing represents $9 trillion in the US, or 1/5 of the professionally managed assets. We created a first-of-its-kind software platform that's going to revolutionize the industry and provide our angel investors with a very high ROI. Mainstream investors previously could not invest along all of their social preferences. Our algorithmic software enables them to do so with an unprecedented level of portfolio customization. We call it socially selective investing. Your core values can be inputs for our automated portfolio construction engine that seeks best-of-breed companies while building responsibly diversified portfolios, offering a level of personalization and tax efficiency previously limited to the high-net-worth investors. We have verbal traction, a team of industry veterans, each with 20-plus years of experience, younger MIT software engineers, and a scalable offshore team. Come visit our booth, check out our app, ask us more about how we're going to revolutionize the industry, and give our investors a high ROI. And if you are investing, if you are making a donation to the MIT Sloan annual fund, please start clapping right now.
Okay, Ponway Gibson from the Sloan Fellows class of 2017, CEO of Ecotec Visions.
37% of all entrepreneurs are developing consumer product businesses. Yet after you leave the university, most of these entrepreneurs can't find places to develop their products. Places like WeWork and Regents are developing spaces for people to share desks, but entrepreneurs are developing things like products that could change our planet. The product I'm holding right now is called Earthware. This is one of our companies. It's made 95% of potato and 5% of soy. They launched in Miami, Florida, and they're going after a school district contract that's a $5 million contract now. This company was not capable of growing and scaling because there aren't spaces for consumer product businesses to grow, ideate, and manufacture their product. Ecotec Visions is that space. We have 6 labs where people can prototype and bring their products to market at large scale. Thank you.
Very good. Next up is Yeona Yang, who holds an MS from 1992, a PhD from 1993. She is Executive Vice President of Explorance, Inc.
All right, I'm going to talk about platforms that help you to listen and take an actions with the analytics. Why is it worth listening? When we look at the students and the employee markets, what they say is that what helped them to most get engaged is when they find that the teachers or my managers listen and take an actions based upon the feedback I provide. So we have a product, technology platform for the live formative feedback where you can listen to the topics or matters that the matters that you want to experiment or care about, and also take an actions. And as you take an actions, you can get a feedback and analytics side. Now, you can actually use these tools for the classroom where the students have a very diverse populations. And also in my company, also I use it to hear about what our employees are talking about, so we can have real-time continuous improvement. And I'm from Explorance. We have customers from the Harvard and the Gartner School vendor. Thank you.
You'll get an opportunity to ask more in the session. Next up is Assad Yumaboy, class of 1986, and his son, Anwar Yumaboy, who graduated yesterday. Congratulations. They are both co-founders of U2U. Take it away.
What Uber did for the car reservation industry and what Airbnb did for the hotel reservation industry, U2 aims to do for the loyalty and rewards industry. Through our patent-pending technology, we aim to reduce the friction that you experience in your day-to-day lives with loyalty. For example, the cross-border aspect. Try and take your Starbucks rewards and earn them in Boston and burn them in Hong Kong. You just can't do it. How many of you have a loyalty card on you today? Your wallet's pretty fat. U2 is authentically mobile, online, and real-time. How does it work? You download our application, you link up to 5 payment cards, any card, and use them at a point of sale, and you can earn and redeem your points in real time. Today we operate in Thailand, where we have 70,000 users in our beta test in the last 6 months. We work with big brands like Zara, Bershka, Massimo Dutti, and small brands as well like Tom & Tom's Coffee. We are going to be opening in Korea at the end of the year, and we've got 7 countries coming on board in 2018. So download our app if you go to Thailand and try it out.
Thank you. Next up is Jackie Khoury from the Masters in Science Management class of 2016. She's a co-founder and COO of Brio Systems, Inc.
Hello, everyone. Do you worry about your health in 10 years? I know I do. Brio gives you the right tools to face the onset of chronic lifestyle diseases. The best way to prevent chronic lifestyle diseases is lifestyle change. But lifestyle change is hard, and objectively, we all suck at it. The result? Prediabetes. It affects 86 million adults in the US, and 90% of them don't even know it. We put lifestyle change within your reach. Every month, our health experts ask you to make 1 incremental change in your diet and exercise. Then, we look at glycated proteins and a drop of blood, and we measure the impact of that change on your health. We don't give you a silver bullet, but we do give you peace of mind, starting at $30 a month. Now imagine 1% of pre-diabetics giving us monthly capillary blood samples. We will have the largest high-resolution biometric data set ever. We launch in 4 weeks. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Nabil Loudgi from the class of 2012, founder of Balditude.
How might we have men be excited about losing their hair? My name is Nabil. I'm the founder of Balditude, a company that provides and produces products for balding men that are so beautifully designed that men everywhere will be counting the days until they lose their hair so that you can use them. In the US, over 35 million men have experienced hair loss, including yours truly. And over $7 billion was spent in 2015 on hair loss products and services. Most of those products are about helping men keep their hair. I want to help men who've chosen to lose it. Our first product is a hat. It's a trucker cap or a snapback hat that provides certain advantages over what's in the market. It doesn't irritate a bare scalp. It looks good on a head that doesn't have hair. And it is also SPF proof, or has good SPF rating, so it prevents you from sunburn. Thank you so much. Please come out and let's make balding great.
We finally get to food.
I know.
I'd like to introduce David Maki, also my independent study student, from the class of 2016, co-founder of Duamenti Healthy Pizza.
Okay.
I screwed it up. Pronounce it.
Please. Okay, cool. So, Duamenti is a healthy pasta restaurant and a pasta manufacturing company based out of Seattle. Before you tell me, I'll come out clean. Like, the restaurant industry is really crazy. I know myself, I've been running the restaurant for like 8 months, so it's pretty crazy. However, the more time we spend doing it, the more we think how much value we can really bring just by doing things a little differently. So the way we're approaching this is, first of all, with a different product. We have developed a proprietary pasta formula based on a blend of different grains and legumes that delivers 50% more proteins, 20% less carbs, and 3 times more fibers with a great combo of vitamins and minerals compared to traditional pasta. And the other thing we do in the restaurant is that we really think how we can use tech to change the experience, and not only in the front of the house, that is, in this space where we see a lot of change, but we're really thinking deeply also about the kitchen operations. And so there's a lot of automation that can happen. So come check us out. See you soon in Seattle. It's awesome. Thank you.
All right, next up is Eric Mintz from the EMBA class of 2013, CEO of Deal Coach Pro.
What's interesting about this cartoon is that it's a very brute force approach to selling, but there's a new reality today for buyers and sellers. On the buying side, the buyers are smarter, there's many more involved in the buying decision, and they make decisions based on the consensus. On the selling side, salespeople have a lot less time to nurture a lead through the sales process. They've got to be better than a walking, talking brochure. There is no technology to help them navigate these groups of buyers. And the millennials are quickly becoming the majority of the sales force, and they have a greater reliance on technology. We created an application to satisfy both sides of the equation. Every small, medium, and large company looking to increase their deal velocity and actually achieve accurate forecasting on their high-value, complex deals needs our sales technology. It's a simple and repeatable sales methodology combined with machine learning, which we've actually patented. We did not recreate a CRM. We leveraged CRM where you can use a standalone. We're at early revenue. I'm still looking for assistance with investors, and I hope you'll come and see us.
Next up is Dietrich Mohan from the class of 1977, Senior Advisor and Acting CEO of European Institute of Wine Society Cooperative. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. The European Institute of Wine deals with quality wines from Europe to our friends in China. Quality wines are recognized by the labels on the bottle, so no misunderstandings. 3 elements. The producers are small, medium-sized European producers in Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, and Germany. We combine them to acquire economies of scale and to level the risks that are involved. Other information upstairs. I'm going to close. I'm very interested in venture capital to a modest amount and in further information.
Next up is Ndidi Obidoa from the class of another one of 2007, co-founder of Bolden.
Hi. So here's the scenario. We're holidaying in Key West, and we're spending a lot of time outdoors. So we stopped by a pharmacy to pick up sunscreen. And the 2 products that we got had me looking like Casper the Friendly Ghost. So it's still very difficult to find products that address specific concerns, skincare concerns for people with dark skin. A lot of major brands just don't focus on this market. Chinelo and I, we founded Bolden to develop premium products that work well for people with dark skin. We work with innovative labs to research the best ingredients to use in our formulations. Since launch, we've introduced 2 product lines, one of which recently got picked up by Costco.com, and we're in talks with a major retailer to get on shelves in 2016, January. To date, we've been self-funded, and we're currently seeking investment partners to fund business, product development and also to fund marketing.
Very good. Next up is one of our Delta V teams for this summer, who will be spending the summer in the Trust Center. Wen Yeong is a PhD candidate, class of 2018, and the founder of Aqua.
Many of you may have heard of what happened in Flint, Michigan, where 100,000 Americans were exposed to dangerous level of lead in their drinking water. But what you may not know is how widespread this problem is. Even here in Massachusetts, of the 300 schools that tested for lead, 164, that's more than half, tested for high levels. To solve this problem, have developed a novel polymer technology as part of my PhD research here at MIT that selectively and effectively remove lead from drinking water. At Aqua, we are developing new materials that can enable next generation water treatment. This summer, as Trish mentioned, we'll be doing the Summer Accelerator Delta V. If you're interested in environmental sustainability, or if you have experience in the water sector, we'd love to connect with you. Thank you.
Next up is another person who's in the accelerator for the summer, Leila P. Raji, who holds a PhD from the class of 2016. She's the founder and CEO of Revive Med.
Hi. There are over 40,000 small molecules or metabolites in human body that could show exactly what happened because of a disease or a genetic factor. Understanding these metabolites are essential for developing right therapeutics for right patient. But it's also extremely difficult, expensive, and time-consuming. Our team at MIT developed a pioneering machine learning platform which was published in Nature Methods to overcome these difficulties. Our platform transformed metabolomic data into actionable solutions. For example, finding therapeutic target, discovering disease mechanism, or their mechanism of action. Currently, we are providing these solutions to a few strategic clients from leading biotech and pharma companies while developing in-house solutions. Thank you.
All right, get ready, class of 2007 again. Arun Prakash from your class, CFO of Cerebri AI.
Thank you. At Cerebri, our primary goal is to help large enterprises better understand their customers so they can increase share of wallet and keep their customers happy, all using their own proprietary data. Big businesses have been talking about one-to-one marketing for a really long time, and it's really, really hard. How do you get a deep understanding of all your customers with snapshots, surveys, and samples? Well, you can't really do it, but we have a way. We take the individual customer journeys, events, and outcomes, and match patterns to the millions of other customer journeys to answer the key questions you need to know to truly understand a customer. How do they value you as a vendor? How do they value assets? And what can they afford or finance? With these core models, you can address many use cases from attrition with a corrective action to building on what works with cross-sells and upsells. We have 3 Fortune 500 customers, a full pipeline. We're raising seed capital and looking for new customer leads. Come see me outside. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Siamak Salampur. Zanjan, oh geez, wow. Can you help me with the last name?
Salampur.
Okay, thank you. From the Management of Technology class of 2002, founder of Propassional.
I too believe there is a crisis of human resources, rooted fundamentally in our archaic industrial employment model of the last century, making very poor use of our natural talents. This inspired me to develop a platform that aims to democratize love what you do. That's work engaged on aligned, innate passion, not just economics. It's an opportunity matching mobile app designed to tap deeper levels of personalized compatibility. But I didn't just stop there. I also designed in a radical new service that enables talents to book freelancing jobs with just one click. I truly envision new heights in fulfillment, productivity, and creativity in such a future of work. I could use all the help I can get. Please come and see me. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, next up, a veteran of Delta V, Ambika Singh, class of 2016, CEO of Armoire.
The average American woman will spend 175 hours shopping this year. That's a staggering number, especially for someone like me who frankly hates shopping. Perhaps even more distressing is the fact that I'll contribute 80 pounds of clothing to the landfill, 20% of which will still have tags on it. No more, we said. Introducing Armoire, the wardrobe as a service for the busy woman. Our customers log into a virtual closet that has been pre-populated with just 10 to 15 items. From this limited set, she chooses 4, which we mail to her. She enjoys them for as long as she wants, and when she's done with them, she mails them back to us. To some of you in this room, this might sound like magic. Well, it's not magic, but it is powered by some pretty cool technology homegrown here at Delta V's Accelerator last summer. Along with my primarily female founding team, 1 year since inception, we're doing $25,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Much more important than this, however, is the fact that we're changing women's lives across the country.
Thank you.
Next up is Abhi Yadav from the Sloan Fellows class of 2013, CEO of XyloTech.
Thank you. I'm the last guy. Hi, everyone. My name is Abhi Yadav. We're a customer intelligence company helping brands do one-on-one marketing on a continuous basis. The problem we solve is there's a lot of lip service around customer centricity, but when it comes to campaigns, there's always spray and pray, and just because brands cannot come up with ongoing customer behavior, we have a two-pronged program which not just help customer data management and quality management, but also with deep learning, identify patterns, who's going to buy next, what's going to buy, when they're going to buy, what's the next churn going to happen, and then enable targeted messaging. We're already seed funded, and more than 10 customer uses our platform today. Come see me outside. Happy to talk to you all. Thank you.
We actually have another one. So it's Gregor Hanushak from the class of 2008, founder and CEO of SMAC Innovations.
Currently, it will cost you $800 or more to put a connectivity option in your car. That's way too much. That's why we developed SafeConnect. SafeConnect is the safest and most versatile connectivity option that doesn't cost $800, but $69.99. SafeConnect is the safest solution because it's the only one that allows the driver to keep eyes on the road, hands on the wheel, and phone in his pocket at all times, no matter what app he's using. And it's the most versatile solution because it's the only solution that seeks to work with every app already on your phone. SafeConnect clamps onto any steering wheel in seconds, and a driver uses voice commands and buttons on SafeConnect to control all those apps and features of his Android or iPhone. We have patents, working prototypes, a factory ready to go. We're looking for connections to retail and distribution partners, and we're looking for $35K to get the factory set up and produce our first 1,000 units. Again, I'm Gregor Hanushak, SMAC Innovations. Come find me right after this.
Okay, we'd like to thank our participants and give them a head start, but if you could give them a round of applause, they did an awesome job. By the way, we'd also like to thank Hisham again and again. If you're interested in signing up for anything at the Trust Center, there's some information up back, and enjoy the Innovation Showcase. Thank you very much for coming.